Welcome to the Book Barn Book Club podcast. Today is our 5th episode. I'm Laisha.
And I'm Lainey. And today we welcome Ahlayna.
Hi, Ahlayna.
Hello.
So today we're going to talk about our book club book selection, but we're also going to ask Ahlayna some questions.
So Ahlayna, our first question for you is, can you tell us a little about yourself and what you do?
Well, I'm Ahlayna, and I am a nurse at a critical access hospital. I work on the med-surg unit. I am also a wife and a mother of one little girl. I'm Laisha's daughter-in-law. My husband and I, we also have a small agritourism attraction here in southeast Kansas called Pryor Creek Farms. We began as a pumpkin patch. Now we are growing into other seasonal attractions. This summer we have ventured into a little bit of cut flowers and selling those at farmers markets.
Yeah, fun summer activity.
I have been to the pumpkin patch and my grandchildren loved it.
Yeah, so what about nursing? What sparked your interest in your field?
When I was 16, my high school offered a dual credit course for a CNA class, so I went ahead and did that class. My mother and my aunt and my grandmother were all CNAs, so I just thought it was the thing to do. I didn't really have the most sparked interest, I would say, in nursing until I had a friend pass away. I went to the hospital to say goodbye, and just the atmosphere of the hospital and the nurses and just how human they all were really is what sparked my interest into going into nursing.
Wow.
I'm sorry for the loss of your friend.
Yeah. If you could talk to your 18-year-old self, what advice would you give her?
At 18, I don't feel like I did a lot of crazy things that 18-year-olds do, but I would tell myself that everything will be okay. It's okay to panic. It's okay to be dramatic, but you will get through it.
Very good. Good advice. Can you tell me about the 3 most influential people in your life?
I don't really feel like I have 3 top influential people in my life. I have a lot of people that have moved me in good and bad ways. I feel like I am just one big mosaic of all the people I encounter.
I love that.
Yeah, nice.
So the next questions are going to be rapid fire. Coffee or tea?
I liked iced coffee and flavored tea.
Early bird or night owl? You don't sleep.
I don't ever sleep.
Dogs or cats?
Dogs for sure.
One thing you can't live without?
My immediate family.
What's your go-to comfort food?
I like creamed corn, and I also like street tacos.
I like all food. It all comforts me. Summer or winter?
I'm not really a summer fan or winter fan. The cold makes me angry. The heat makes me angry. But here in Kansas, I don't feel that we get any in between.
Not much.
Sweet or savory?
I like both. If I have something sweet, I have to have something salty and vice versa.
Do you have a favorite author?
I don't really know. I have just started getting back into reading. When I was a teenager, I probably would be on the John Green bandwagon. I read a lot of John Green books.
What's your favorite book, and why does it resonate with you?
I don't really know what my favorite book is.
That's okay.
Yeah. Maybe you'll discover it soon.
I have just started reading on my phone, and the first book I picked up was actually It Ends With Us. Everyone at work was reading it, and so I just went ahead and downloaded it on my phone. I knew that it was Laisha's book club's, well, your guys' book club's July selection, and so I figured that I would flatter her and read it. And I actually ended up really liking it and finished it in one day.
And that's what we're going to talk about today.
It is.
Yes.
I'm so excited.
I am too.
All right. Well, let's talk about this book.
Our story is It Ends With Us, and it's a novel by Colleen Hoover. So, Ahlayna, when I first started reading this book, the first thing that grabbed my attention was they talked about a eulogy that Brooke Shields did for Michael Jackson when he passed away. Did you go and look up that eulogy when you saw it on the first page of the book?
I did not. At the very beginning of the book, I was sitting at the nurse's station at work, so I didn't read too deep into the very beginning of it.
Sure. I couldn't help myself. I went and listened to it, and it was just epic. It really was. And that's what the author wrote on that first page, was that it was an epic eulogy. You could tell that Brooke Shields and Michael Jackson were the best of friends, and it really showed you the lighter side of the King of Rock, right? Or the King of Pop. It was very, very eye-opening for me. At the beginning of the book, we meet Lily.
Yeah. So Lily is the one that said she had an epic eulogy.
She did, for her father. And what did you think about that eulogy? Do you remember it?
Where she just got up there and didn't say anything.
She said nothing.
I feel like I did get that at first when she talked about it, that she didn't have anything good to say about him. I don't think I ever really read into it that she got nervous, as she mentioned that her mother said that she did.
Yeah.
Right.
So I want to let everyone know that today we'll have some spoilers. We're going to talk about this book cover to cover. So if you haven't read it yet and you plan to, don't listen anymore.
Press stop.
Yeah.
Tell us how you felt about the beginning of the book.
I feel like when I started getting deeper into, like, drawn into the book was whenever Ryle did come out and they mentioned the photographer falling to his death. I honestly thought that the book was going to end up with one of the main characters committing suicide. They seem to express, I don't really know if that's the word, he hoped the photographer at least got the shot that caused him to fall to his death, or else it would be a waste of the effort. And later you find out that he was in residency to be a neurosurgeon, and I felt like he was going to be the one to commit suicide before he finished his residency.
Interesting.
Yeah. I had already told Ahlayna this, but, they did talk about the photographer and being on the rooftop. I thought that the photo hanging in his sister's living room.
Oh, my word.
I thought that was actually going to be the photograph of the photographer.
Wow.
Like the last photo. And then it didn't make sense how he would have gotten it either. But that was
rich,
my first.
Though, so they could have gotten anything.
Yeah, but that was my first thought, was like, oh, that's the photo.
Oh, wow.
But then it was from the rooftop, but it was of Lily in the chair. Yeah.
Because that was the first time Lily and Ryle met.
Yeah. So what were your thoughts when Lily said that she fell in love with a homeless guy? I kissed a homeless guy. Actually, I did a little more with a homeless guy.
I wasn't expecting it to be a young boy. When you think of a homeless person, you think of a dingy old man, probably someone that you're not going to find attractive. So I did think she must have had a little too much to drink or something.
Yeah. It wasn't what I was expecting either. But I did like his story. It was heartbreaking, but I enjoyed that part of the story. So enjoy is not a good word for that.
It's not, because this story, I guess we should say, it went back and forth, because you're with Atlas when he's a boy, and then you go to Atlas when he's a man, and same with Lily. It kind of goes back and forth, and Atlas is the name of the young man who was homeless. Were you Team Atlas or were you Team Ryle?
This is where I feel like I may be a little toxic in my life, because I was a bit Team Ryle.
Well, you have a young child. It means a lot to have a baby with someone. I can understand how she would want to be with him, because you want to keep your family intact. But at the same time, she came from this family that she hated her father.
Yeah.
And violence in a relationship is never okay. But and then I use the word but, but he explained his situation of, his brother.
That was sad, Emerson.
Emerson being shot when they were children. He shot him.
He did.
Yeah. And how that just absolutely traumatized him. And that caused him to have these episodes where he almost blacks out, just doesn't even know what he's doing. But it's usually in anger that something happens, and then he becomes violent.
And alcohol was usually involved as well.
Alcohol was usually involved. So, that's something that he probably should have recognized and put a stop to that. If he knew that he had that condition and alcohol caused it to become worse, I don't know. It's a touchy situation.
So Lily Blossom Bloom, with her alliteration there in her name.
Yeah.
She fell in love with two boys. As a child, she fell in love with Atlas. And then as an adult, she fell in love with Ryle, and she didn't know where Atlas was. He had kind of went off to be in the military, and he had, went to live with a family member in Boston before going into the military. And so he was supposed to come back for her.
He didn't.
He didn't, but he did.
Yeah, you find out later.
We find out that he actually did. How'd you feel about that?
I do think I see where Lily had her problem on who she loved, because you very much fall in love with both men in the book.
Yeah.
They're very good at explaining each of them. I forgot the question.
Yeah. Well, when he came back and he did see her, but she was happy. Was it she in college?
She was in college.
She was in college, and she came back, and he was about to talk to her, and then another guy came up, and she was giggling and happy, and he said he loved seeing her so happy. And that was all he needed. Wasn't really all he needed, because he really did want her, but he was willing to just walk away because she was happy. What did you feel about that?
I thought it was big of him to settle in order to make her happy, though we later on realized that she likely would have dropped that college boyfriend right then and there for him.
Absolutely.
Oh, I think so. I think so. What did you think about the letters to Ellen?
I thought writing to Ellen was a little dorky, but getting your feelings out is never dorky. However, you have to do that, I guess, as long as it's safe and legal.
Yeah. I actually loved it.
I did too.
I thought it was really neat. It was
funny at times. She made us laugh, but then it was sad at times too. But I liked the letters to Ellen as well. I wrote down a quote that Ryle said: "Deep down, we're all equal amounts of screwed up. Some are just better at hiding it."
That's true.
I thought that was a good quote. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on that?
I come from a family that isn't very great, and I've been shown a lot of bad things, but I don't really know how I want to word that. There's definitely good in those people that you would want to categorize as bad.
That's a good way to say it.
I had a stepfather. Him and my mom had fallen into addiction, and that's obviously not good. They split up, and when they split up, he would drive from another town to take me to get breakfast and take me to school every morning, even though I wasn't his child. So I know that most people would categorize him as a bad person, but I will always have the utmost respect for those gestures.
Yeah, you saw the good in him for sure.
Yeah.
So Ahlayna, what was your favorite part of this book?
I feel like they all had a really good storyline, just from her leaving a domestic relationship, the dynamic between her and Atlas, and overcoming the things that they went through. So it makes it really hard to choose a favorite.
Yeah, it is kind of. Do you have a favorite part, Lainey?
I don't know that I had a absolute favorite. No.
How about least favorite?
Definitely whenever she was starting to live the life that she wanted away from as a child.
I don't even need to ask this because I know the answer. Did you race to the end, or was it more of a slow burn?
I just couldn't stop reading it.
It was a race for me too, but it did take me probably a week to read it.
Mine was a good 6 hours. So.
Yeah, that's fast. What do you think about the writing?
I feel like the beginning maybe was a little bit more awkward, but whenever I really got into it, I didn't notice anything.
Yeah. What did you think of the writing style?
I mean, I wouldn't consider this top end literature, but I did enjoy it. I don't know. I mean, she's a very well-known author, and she's read by thousands of people, so obviously she's talented. So did you reread any of her?
I did not of this.
Yeah, if you can stay focused on it, it's pretty easy.
So I reread that first page because I wanted to go and look at the video of Brooke Shields' eulogy for Michael Jackson. So I would come back and reread it. The actual quotes that I was like, oh, I would go back and reread those. I wanted to write them down, but that's it.
Obviously, do you want to read another book by this author? You already are, aren't you?
I'm about halfway through It Begins With Us.
I don't want any, spoilers from it, but how does it start?
It starts exactly where the last one left off.
Oh, I love that.
She kissed Atlas.
And this goes very much between Atlas and her perspective, so sometimes I feel like it's a little harder to follow, but I also do like to know what both characters are thinking. I think that's cool. I also think that eventually it would be cool if they came out with a Ryle's perspective with everything he went through also.
Yeah, because he has quite a story, too.
Yeah, he does.
He really does.
I don't know if he can ever have a relationship, honestly, that doesn't involve anger and you hope that for him, that he could also fall in love again. So did this book remind you, I guess, Laisha, of any books that you've read in the past?
No, actually.
So one of our friends compared it to Nicholas Sparks, those kind of books. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's a fair comparison or not.
Maybe. I'm not sure. I'd have to read a little more. You're the Nicholas Sparks.
I read every one.
Expert. So do you feel like they have similar writing styles?
When our friend said that, I was a little surprised, actually. But then now that I'm thinking of it, I would put their styles on the same level of writing. You know, his are mostly 4s for me, even though I just love him. I would say they're both kind of similar in that way.
Yeah.
So overrated or underrated on this one?
I don't think either. I think I see what the hype is on that.
Yeah, I do too. I do.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with us?
I feel like the book almost, I don't really know what I would mix it with, but I feel like the tone of it, at some points, it kind of reminds me of 50 Shades of Grey, you know?
That is the other book that our friend said it reminded her of.
Yeah.
That's funny.
A Rich, Angry Man.
Yeah, I haven't read it, and I
Haven't
haven't seen the movie either, so can't really compare.
Interesting. So you've read that one, 50 Shades of Grey?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys have heard of After, the series by Anna Todd. It started out as a fan fiction of the One Direction, actually, and it kind of follows along the lines of 50 Shades of Grey also, so I guess I must like these kinds of stories of angry men. I don't like angry men, though.
Yeah. Her husband is this one's son.
Yeah. He's not angry.
No, he's like the most non-confrontational person.
He's a sweetheart, I know that.
If you had to pick someone to read this book, who would you most want to read it?
Yeah, my best friend, she's already read it. You've read it. Everyone at work has read it. I'm in group chats at work now.
All right, so we are late to the party here, but we've done it now. If you could ask the author anything, what would that be?
Can you please write Ariel's point of view?
Yeah, I think that's good. I like that.
I actually did tweet that to her, but she didn't see it. Or she might have thought she was going to answer. I don't condone the way he acts, but there is a reason why a person is the way they are. It definitely doesn't condone bad, but the brain and the way that it works just amazes me all the time. So I'm not always an empath, but I try to be, and I do recognize that there's reasons why people are the way they are, whether that turns them into good or bad. Regardless, they always have the option of turning it to good.
Yeah. This was kind of interesting because she had an abusive father. The author actually did. And so she's writing about domestic abuse, and she makes Ryle seem likable too.
Yes,
she does.
You always hear the question of, why didn't you just leave him?
Yeah.
I would have to watch the trailer, but they did bring that up about how do you just leave the person you love, even if they are the person that's hurting you.
Yeah.
Well, I thought she was very brave and was able to leave him knowing that it was what was best for her daughter.
Yeah. And the way that she made him see that and understand.
Yes.
I mean, that was heartbreaking, asking him in the hospital after she's just born and he's holding his daughter for the first time. And, you know, what would you do if she comes to you and says, Daddy, my boyfriend's hit me? What would you do if my husband was pushing me down the stairs? You know, how would he understood then?
He did.
Yeah. A book filled with lots of emotions.
I feel like I lived many lives while reading it.
So Ryle says, Lily, you might be the best thing that's ever happened to me. That was obviously early on. Do you think he still felt that way at the end of the book?
I think that he felt that way because he knew what he had lost. Not that we know if he was willing to change, but it was too late at that point.
Yeah.
He had already acted on his anger 3 times and caused physical pain to her.
Well, and if it hadn't been for her, he wouldn't have his daughter.
Right.
Right.
So Elisa was actually one of my, I loved that character. She seemed so genuinely kind and sweet and went to work for Lily's flower shop for free.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, that was fun. I think that would be nice to have that much money that you wouldn't.
I couldn't even imagine.
I also put down a quote from Atlas. He said, in the future, if by some miracle you ever find yourself in a position to fall in love again, fall in love with me. You're still my favorite person. I love that.
I know.
And if somebody said, Lainey, who's your favorite person? I know who I would say. Do you?
Well, you would say your husband.
Absolutely. I liked that as well.
So, Ahlayna, did you like this book?
I really did enjoy this book so much that I finished it in one day after not reading for years.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty impressive because she hadn't read, and then she's like one whole book in a day.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
It took me longer than that.
It took me 2 days.
I do feel like the book is one big roller coaster, but it's also so real. When I think of, I'll just say Yellowstone, everyone is so intrigued in Yellowstone, but the events that happen aren't very realistic at all. So while I do think that this book, it seemed like there was one event right after another that threw you for a loop, they were all realistic situations. I also feel like that could be why I did get so deeply into this book, is I feel like there are situations in my life or in the people I love's life that have resonated with this book.
Yeah.
I mean, these things do happen.
Yeah.
And I think some women don't know how to handle those situations. So maybe a book like this would help them, possibly.
Well, it addresses quite a bit. I mean, there's drinking involved, although it wasn't an alcoholic, but alcohol did play a role in Ryle's behavior at times. Physical abuse, domestic abuse. There's homelessness.
Losing a parent.
Yeah.
Following your dreams. Opening up a flower shop when you had a pretty good job beforehand. Yeah. She kind of gave up that to follow her dreams.
Yeah.
Losing a love and finding a love.
Yeah.
Refinding a love.
Refinding.
I wonder how her mom did with her new boyfriend.
She acted like her mom knew all the ropes. Maybe that was in the next book.
Oh.
We haven't read that yet.
Yeah, I think that's in the next book, actually. So I'm about halfway through that one.
I love that at the very end when she had the baby and they named it Emerson Dory.
Yeah, Dory after Ellen's character, Finding Nemo.
Yes.
Yeah, just keep swimming. I thought it was pretty brave of her, too, because Ryle was so good to her during the delivery, and it would have been so easy for her to just...
I thought for sure she was taking him back.
Right,
when she's like,
right.
I have to make this decision for my daughter. I'm thinking, oh, she wants her parents to be together. So when she comes out, I want a divorce. I'm gutted right there. I cried for a good 30 minutes after. I'm like, she really...
But how
she really
brave of
Yes.
her. Did it say how old the little girl was when she found Atlas again? When she was...
11 months old.
Yeah.
Right before her first birthday.
I loved it. What would you give it as far as a score?
I don't have much to compare it to, so I'd probably say a 5 at this moment.
Yeah, I think a 4.
I also think a 4.
Yeah. Do you know what it scores on Goodreads?
No, but I will. I'm having technical difficulties. Goodreads gives it a 4.15. So, Ahlayna, I am just so happy that you joined us in the book barn. I really am.
Yeah. It's been a great visit.
And I hope you'll come back and see us again sometime.
I am reading again.
She'll be back. Our first episode went pretty easy. Like, we recorded it, we
Quickly.
edited it. It wasn't quickly, but
5 hours.
quickly as in 5 hours.
Yep.